In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a thumbnail sketch of a plant focusing on negative spaces. So starting out my drawing, I am looking through a viewfinder, and this is what I see. So the first thing I'm positioning is that top, I'm going to call it a flower. I know this plant is a succulent. I don't know the exact name, but I am positioning that top left green flower. And then after that, I'm drawing the one underneath it, and I'm comparing the size of that to the one on top. And now I'm working on the stem as that curves around out of that bottom flower. And here I'm looking at the next flower, and I'm looking at the space between them. That's me looking at the space between them. And as I'm blocking these in, what I'm doing is I'm just making a light circle around the edges of the forms, and I'm drawing the stems with more detail, but I am just lightly drawing a circle for the actual flowers. And I do that because I want to establish the composition pretty quickly. So here I'm working on that stem as it curves around, staring at the negative spaces around it. And now I'm looking at where that bottom flower is in relationship to the top right flower, and I dropped a vertical that shows me that they're pretty much lined up vertically. Now I'm looking at the angle between the flower on the left bottom and then the one on the right bottom. So I use those angles. Now I didn't hold my pencil up to do my sighting like I would if I was doing a drawing that would take a longer time, because this is really only a quick sketch. So in the sketch, what I'm really looking for is whether or not the composition works, the placement of the branches as well as the placement of the flowers on the paper. And I'm trying to figure out if I enjoy doing it, if I want to take a longer time making this drawing. Right now I'm going back into those flower shapes. You remember before I just used light circles to lay them out. And I'm drawing in some of the petals. As I'm drawing the petals, I'm studying kind of their pattern, their growth pattern. And I'm also seeing that some petals are foreshortened. Some petals are coming right at me, so they appear shorter. Now I'm working on the flower that's right underneath, and I started working at the top edge. Now I'm sort of getting into the center and curving it around. I didn't speed up this video. This is shot and you're watching it in real time, just to kind of give you an idea how to get through a drawing pretty quickly and not getting too fussy about exact shapes, but getting close enough. So here I'm really studying that negative space that I see, that U-like shape in the middle of that branch. I think these branches are really cool. This is one of my favorite plants. So I would definitely like to spend a longer time with this drawing. And here, it looks like I'm still working on the stem a little bit and looking at some of the spaces. Here, yeah, I'm really studying those negative spaces and that curve of the stem. You'll notice I'm not using my viewfinder anymore, so what I like to do is after I lay out my composition, I put my viewfinder down, and then I really have an idea about what I'm focusing on. So I don't find it necessary for me to use my viewfinder the whole time, but that might help you. You might want to try the viewfinder the whole time. Okay, so now I'm putting in this other flower. It's a side view, so I started at the bottom and worked up. Sometimes if the flowers are a front view, you may want to work out from the center. And other times it makes sense to start from the outside and work in. So it kind of depends on the point of the view of the flower. I guess what I'm saying is if you saw the center of a flower that had kind of a radial design, I would start in the center, like if it was a front view of a flower. But if it was a side view, I would probably start on the side or the bottom of a flower and work over. So for each thing you draw, whether it's a leaf or a branch, you need to have a strategy about how you're going to attack it and what order you're going to draw it. One of the most important things to remember is it can really help your drawing to stare at the negative spaces. And I do that a lot, especially when I'm drawing the branches. Now here I'm working on some of the petals of that flower on the bottom. And I'm seeing that they look longer on the left side. And they overlap each other, so you don't see them all. And your job is to record what you see and not to draw what you think it should look like, or, you're not drawing a diagram of the flower. You're trying your best to draw exactly what you see. And again, with a quick sketch, I'm not getting overly concerned about whether or not each petal is in the exact right place. But I'm getting the feel of it. I'm suggesting where the petals go. And here I'm continuing to work on that curve of the branch. So that curves around. And I see it coming through. With the branches, it's important to draw through the branches. If they're overlapped by another branch, just go ahead and draw through that underneath branch. You can always erase your lines later. And that'll get your drawing to have a nice flow to it. So here I decided that I was going to go back into the stems or the branches. And I'm doing a little bit of cross contour line on them. Now the nice thing about those branches as I'm looking at them is I notice they have that cross contour line visible with their growth pattern. So that's really cool to observe. I really enjoyed doing that. And I'm about finished with this sketch, and you can see that it took me about 10 minutes to do. Here I decided I was going to try to lightly draw the side of that orange pot. I'm not totally sure that I would want that in my final composition. If I decided to make this drawing large, I'm not sure that it really adds to the subject matter. That's a decision I can make later if I decided to make this my larger drawing. So for my finishing touches, I was thinking that the flower on the left and the one that's a little bit lower would be a really good focal point. So I thought, well, let me go back in there and darken up some of my lines a little. Because when you're working on a drawing, you can vary your focus. You can have some areas that are really in focus and other areas that aren't so much in focus. So there you have it. It's a quick sketch.